Hey guys, what's going on? Space Cowboy here. I know it's been a while since I finally did a video, but things have been pretty busy for myself. I've been busy with work and other things, so I haven't been able to really make some content for you, and I apologize for that. But we have a topic that has been, discussed throughout, the Cowboys, Twitter, Facebook, just everywhere when it comes to the Cowboys. People that are fans or talk Cowboys. That is, what do the Cowboys do? Do they continue to lose or try to purposefully lose to get as high of a draft pick as possible to trade that or do whatever they want to do with that high of a pick? Or do you attempt to win football games? Now, for me, at first I was like, well, we'll see what happens. And now, as we dredge further and further into the season, and now that we're starting to see the team kind of come together after they made some adjustments, and again, I'm not saying like they're going to go on a run or anything. No, that's not what I'm insinuating. But what I am saying is that the Dallas Cowboys have done a pretty damn fine job when it comes to being able to be competitive in some of these games they have no business being competitive in. Like, for example, with the Philadelphia game, no one expected Dallas to be leading at halftime versus Philadelphia. No one expected Dallas to be leading at halftime versus the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. So when I look at it, I mean, Dallas has been playing good enough to win games. They just haven't been able to finish these games. And we're kind of starting to see some of these pieces of the puzzle start to come together. And that's because I think players are kind of starting to buy into what the coaches are trying to do. Now, again, we still have plenty of season to go. I mean, Dallas is still in play for the division. I'm not saying we should do that. But I think we need to ride the season out, and we just need to see this team, just whatever record it ends with, that's fine. Now, I would say that the pros for tanking is you get a high draft pick, and looking at the NFL Tankathon, the website that kind of tracks like where teams are position-wise. The Cowboys, with Washington losing, they actually moved down a spot to number 4. Now, with the 3 teams in front of them being Washington, Jacksonville, and New York, the Jets, I do personally believe that if Dallas can land in the top 5, they're in play to trade with teams that need quarterbacks, because you're starting to see a couple quarterback prospects start to prop up, and people are like, we need to look at that guy. Now, if you're on the side of Team Tank and you want the Cowboys to go 2-14 to secure the 3rd or 2nd overall pick if they're lucky, I do think that you also want to see a lot of teams that have older quarterbacks or stuff like that. Like, you want to see teams that need quarterbacks go through really bad stretches. So seeing Chicago struggle is a good thing to see. I would have said, well, New England's another as I look at the list, just as for some ideas. I would say Washington's in need of a quarterback, but odds are you're not going to trade down with them if you manage to lose out. Maybe Indianapolis if they don't like what they have in Jacob Eason and if Phillip Rivers just retires. Maybe Cleveland. So I look at this list, and there are options for the Dallas Cowboys to trade down. My only thing is again, we don't know what the final standings are going to look like, and that's going to be the biggest question mark for me. That's why I'm just riding the season out before I think about, okay, this is the moves the Cowboys can do. However, I do think it's important that the Cowboys try to be competitive in these games, right? Like, if they had beaten Pittsburgh, I would not have been upset, because I think the biggest thing we need to understand is when you're building a football program with a new coaching staff and you're trying to implement new stuff, you want to try and win games. Like, you want to try and be competitive. And you could argue, well, the Cowboys weren't doing that before Dak went out. But the thing is that I think that after they trimmed the fat on the defense in terms of getting rid of Poe, getting rid of Worley. And again, not all these other guys are perfect, but I think now you're kind of starting to see some of these players emerge. I mean, Neville Gallimore's been improving. Unfortunately, Trevon Diggs got hurt, so he's probably done for the year, or he'll just barely come back at the end of the year. So the more I look at it, the more I'm like, okay, we need the Cowboys to seriously just listen. I think that you can have the best of both worlds. Like, if you can have it to where Dallas plays competitively the entire game, right? And then you have a situation to where they basically lose out at the very end, there's nothing to complain about. The Cowboys over the past 2 weeks have executed that perfectly in that it's an organic tanking, but you're kind of seeing the culture come together to where they're competing hard. Yes, and there are still issues. I'm not trying to sit here and say everyone's doing better. Like, I've already gone on record. I've said Jalen Smith has been a pain in the ass because he's been a massive deficiency in coverage. That's true. You look at some of these plays where it's like, some of our corners are still getting beat. Now, I will say, we don't know what's going to happen with Cheeto because he's been hurt the whole year. I will say another good point is that the pass rush is starting to kind of, like, DeMarcus Lawrence is starting to play up to par with Randy Gregory coming back. That's one so I'm looking at the pass rush of the Cowboys and I'm like, I'm liking what I'm seeing. So the defensive line looks like it's starting to kind of get some footing. I'm not saying it's like a world beater type of thing, but it's looking solid. Offensively speaking, I think that the Cowboys need to seriously consider having Garrett. Now, I know it's one game, but, I mean, you already had 2 games worth of Andy Dalton, and at most he scored you, 13 points in 2 games? Garrett Gilbert managed to get your team, 19 points? Like, he get in 1 game, so it's like... And if I'm the Cowboys... I think that if you go back to Andy Dalton, you're just artificially tanking at that point. But I mean, I can't sit here, it's kind of hard to do content throughout the year because if I'm going into the game saying that Dallas isn't, there's no point in me reviewing a game unless, there are notable factors. Like, for example, the Pittsburgh game, I thought we were going to get blown the hell out, but the fact that the Cowboys look competitive and they've done some things we weren't used to seeing, I like that. So, they play Minnesota now. Do I think... Because Minnesota's been really bad this year. But they have won 3 straight. And odds are Minnesota will probably even the record at 5-5 versus us and get us down to 2-8. So, the best way I could say is if you look at you want to hope that the Jets win, Jacksonville wins, Washington, the Chargers... Houston wins and Cincinnati wins. So there's that. And then I do want to have a little thought on the NFC East because I was looking at the standings and I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. Look, I still feel like Philadelphia is going to waltz their way into the playoffs barely, but I wouldn't be shocked if New York pulled something and managed to get... I think it's funny how there are people that think because... for example, just because you beat the Philadelphia Eagles or you beat the Washington football team or if you beat an NFC East opponent, that's nothing. I had people at work that are Giants fans going oh my god, we're going to win the division. Oh my god, you're 3-7 and you beat a porous Eagles team that isn't putting the pieces together, right? And listen, I thought, and I had New York winning that game in my Pick'em League. I thought New York was going to win that game. My only thing is just again, I feel like if you're an NFC East team that beats another NFC East opponent, you're not really, why would you be thinking oh my god, all of a sudden things are going to come together? You know what I mean? And that's just, from work. So, because I've even had Eagles fans be, I'm like, why the hell are you happy that, I mean, okay, cool with the rivalry, but you're just going to F up your draft pick, but they were going to F it up anyway, so. But yeah, I think that I'm for the culture building. I think that McCarthy's kind of you're starting to see that as we get further and further into the season. And, look, if Dallas ends up going, I feel like if they're going to put themselves back on the map and win a couple games, I think they could finish maybe a 4-12. Maybe they can win one more game if they have it in them. I just don't know. I think that they're gonna lose every single game from here on out. But yeah, I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. By all means, tell me, how do you feel about this? Do you think we should tank? Do you think we should, build a culture or continue to build on that? And that might cost your draft pick. Tell me down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So, I don't know if I'll do a video for the Minnesota week. Maybe I'll do a live stream to review it. I'll let you guys know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.